Yeah, I wrote this contribution together with my colleagues Silke van der Schaaf and Kadi Schleid of Data Cove. And I want to present you a project we are currently working on, which is called API for INSPIRE. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. Any way to access geodata, and especially there we're looking into new standards coming from the OGC. I guess a lot of wordings in this introduction are preaching to the choir, so I guess you are familiar with that. But nevertheless, since I guess there are some students in there, let's try at least to give you a little bit of understanding what's going on. So INSPIRE is a European directive from 2007, so quite some years already in use. And this covers how to provide spatial information. So this circles down to the European states, and inside of the states, especially in Germany, to the local states, and they're also down to cities and all these actors, and they can provide the data according to this directive. And this covers 34 spatial data themes, which are written up in this Annex 3. This is, for example, energy data, road data, buildings, environmental data, everything that's basically has a relation to a geolocation. And yeah, it's a little bit old school what it provides, because it uses all those fat and heavyweight XML schemas. And yeah, nevertheless, it's in practical use. So the current status is about 100,000 data sets and about 7,000 institutions providing data. But not everything is perfect, so there is still a lot of harmonization necessary. And yeah, there's room for improvement. And yeah, why APIs in that context? So yeah, you somehow need to provide the data and make it possible to access this data. So you need a kind of application programming interface, and not only that. So API normally also comes with a data model. So this is also included in this wording. And currently, yeah, the most common in use OGC services like web mapping service, so the WMS or FS for feature services, are in use for that. But yeah, new standards arriving there from the OGC, which also gives a possibility then to look into that problem with a new view. And the European agenda also drives this, because yeah, different connectors should be more connected, not only bringing the data to a central European place, but also on a low level, bringing people together to integrate the data and use it together. And yeah, so as I said, this gives the big possibility also to work in a new way. And I think especially the lower part here, number 2, is an interesting thing how you nowadays can work. So in the past, you basically had a standard, you have a directive, and then you waited people to adopt it. But that's not very effective, as we learned. So nowadays, you're more looking in hackathons, so bringing people together in a place, giving them the API, teaching them how to use it, and also providing real-world data, and then see what they come up with. And this works very nicely. Currently, with the Corona crisis, it's a bit of a problem, since virtual hackathons are not that nice as physical ones. But nevertheless, this is also a way to work. And this provides lots of early implementation, and also gives us many new ideas and first results to also adapt specifications accordingly. Yeah, coming to this API for INSPIRE project, this is currently running. We are in around the middle, going more close to the end of the project. And this is funded by JRC, so the European Joint Research Center in ISPRA, and under this ELISE action. And yeah, also there in this project, we're trying to come up with this novel approach to have providers, data providers on board, and work with with real-world data. And looking into these new APIs, this means especially the OGC API features service and the SensorThings API, which we already heard before in the previous talk. And to look into how easy it is to deploy these API endpoints together with our data providers, and from that abstract guidelines for how to do this, lessons learned, and yeah, come up with good practices. And as partners here, so I am from Fraunhofer IOSB, located here in Karlsruhe in Germany. And one of my colleagues, so Hilke van der Schaaf, he's also one of the co-chairs of the SensorThings API service specification team, and we have Kati Schleit with us from Data Cove. She has long year experience in all this field of INSPIRE, and we also have GeoSolutions with us, which I guess you know from providing the open source GeoServer product, which has now also an experimental implementation of the OGC API features specification. Yeah, many data providers are with us, which cover basically all of these 34 areas or topics of data you can have in the INSPIRE Directive. For example, Austrian Meteorological Agency and Austrocontrol. Austrocontrol provides data about all the air traffic in Austria, and also the airport data, which is location based. Then we have also environmental agency on the Austrian and European level, which gives us the opportunity to combine, for example, the air quality data together with the flight data. We have a city of Hamburg, which is very interesting because I'm not sure if everybody knows. So Hamburg is also a German state, which means they have very close together all the different data you can have in a state, but not on a state level, but more on a city level. So it's you have shorter ways, and you have an easier way to bring those people together to think about how to integrate this data to get a better understanding or to provide new services for your public. We have the French Geological Survey, so BRGM is with us, together with the Office of Biodiversity. They manage a lot of different environmental data, geological data in France, especially of interest for us. There is groundwater and surface water, because France has a common border together with Germany, which is in that case here Baden-Württemberg, from which we also have the environmental agency. So they also provide this quality data about ground and surface water. So this is an interesting use case to combine this data together. So looking into these APIs, so OGC API, I think, is the most horrible wording you could choose, because the OGC has many APIs, and then to come up with the name OGC API is very confusing. And we also learned together when we work in the project, it always causes some misunderstanding when you talk about OGC API. So if you ever hear this word OGC API, always look very closely what is actually meant by this. So meant in that case is a number of new standards coming up from OGC under this wording of OGC API. Until now, there is one finalized. This is the feature service, which we look into in the next slide, but starting with that one. So this is the idea to replace all those heavyweight older services with more lightweight, RESTful services, which are always described in open API document. Also use JSON, but there are also other options available to use HTML or XML. And that another thing is that it should be very modular. So you start with a minimal core and then add extensions to that. And as I said, features is the first one, which is standardized so far. It's also available on GitHub, and also the documentation is there. And it adds a number of new URIs to that to look up items and features. So if you're familiar with the older WFS service, I think this started somehow as the idea to be WFS 3.0. And so this is basically the intention of the standard is to provide features with this new standardization. So this is the first standard we're looking into the project, and the second is the SensorThings API, which we heard in the previous talk about as well. This is strangely not part of this OGC API thing. It's a separate standard. I think mainly because it's coming from another direction. It's started with the Internet of Things approach. So you want to manage things. It's also REST and JSON, so pretty similar. But the difference, if you look on the right, is you have it standardized in OData API model, so a bit different. And yeah, but it gives the option to have powerful queries in there. So it's pretty similar to what you can query with SQL is also possible with the SensorThings API. And the really nice thing about it, it has a very simple data model, but very powerful at the same time. So this contains all the experience of OGC basically. You have names like feature of interest observation, which are very familiar from the observation and measurements model. Also have locations, so you can move around things, moving sensors, and sensors as usual can also be algorithms. So this is basically your basic building blocks you need to come up with a data model, and it looks very simple, but it's very powerful at the same time. As I said, my colleague Hilke van der Schaaf, he's working on a specification of a standard, and we also provide an open source implementation, the Frost server, if you want to take a look at that. It's fully standard compliant, and there's also Docker images available there on GitHub, and you can directly start putting your data into such a server. Yeah, so the project's idea is to test with real-world data how easy it is to apply these new APIs. So setting up servers which are accessible on the internet. But that's the easy task. The more interesting task for us was how can you combine data? That's something we challenged ourselves with, and we came up with this funny name, data nests, because we pretty quickly saw you can combine data. As I said, for Austria, it's very interesting to combine the air transport data with the meteorological data. And for the city of Hamburg, there's many options as a smart city to integrate these different ideas, especially with road. We will look into that in a second as well. Also, this cross-border water use case, very interesting to look at, and something we did not have on the radar when we wrote the proposal is the COVID coming up, and we also had to throw some COVID data into an example use case, and there it was very interesting to combine it with air quality data, because less factories are working, so you can really see air quality got better into that way, but also with a demographic layer. And yeah, that's things that showed us how quickly you can really set up such servers and get new insights into such data. Yeah, this is an Airy Austria use case where we combine the Austro control data with the meteorological agency data. And the combined data is also available already in a test server. Next one, the city of Hamburg, they have an urban data platform. They already established, and they're adding more and more data to that. Examples for that, what is already available are there are charging stations for electric cars. You can already see where are those stations, what are they available, are they working. They have their bike sharing stations in there as well. Energy data is there as well, and there are many more ideas what you can do there. For example, currently there is a plan for hackathon with traffic lights, so you get the information when the traffic lights will switch to green or to red. So this is very interesting for car manufacturers, for example, because you can automatically slow down a car if the traffic light changes, and ideas like that are very easy to implement if you have such data available. Also, they have environmental data. This is also something you can combine with the car traffic, and yeah, different options in there as well. Yeah, the Franco-Germanic Flow, so BSGM and OFB, they have all this data available about the data quality, and as well as our local state, Baden-Württemberg, where I'm also located in, they have also those water resources, and there we already have some insights. So this is very close here to Karlsruhe. This is a German site. I hope you can see my mouse. If not, look in the right lower corner. In this map, so the upper part is Germany, the lower one is France, and yeah, you have water stations on both sides of the river, as you can see in the left upper corner, and there is this upper diagram graph where we see you see similarities between those two stations, but there are also on the right hand things which are not that logical, maybe. So these are now new things that experts can look into, and this is the first time the local agencies can look into that data. Yeah, so very interesting, and the agencies are already very surprised what they can see and what they can do with that data now. Just to give you an impression where we have already made data available in the use cases all over Europe. And in these links, you can take a look yourself. So on our webpage, we also have these links available to these different use cases, which use this real-world data and the servers. Just a word of warning, these are really working servers, so they might be down sometimes. So if it's not working when you go there, just try again the next day, and you can take a look at data. Yeah, conclusions. It says no conclusions yet, which is not fully true because we just need to write it down. But the conclusions we can already take from that so far is that it's much easier to bring data into the world with those new standards, because this it's not a big project, it's a smaller project, and even with that funding for some months or even weeks, it's very easy to bring this this data into the world and show it to people, and it feels much better as a developer if you use it. You can integrate it in all other existing systems because REST, JSON, I guess I'm preaching to the choir, is easier to adapt. And also the data models are not that complex as they used to be. And yeah, everything's more nicer and lightweight. Yeah, we still need convincing is still necessary with agencies. That has not changed, but if you can show stuff quickly and show those new insights, for example, the border use case I showed you, France and Germany, which yeah also motivates to look into these things at these agencies. Yeah, as it says there, we need more guinea pigs. So if you want to look into that, try it yourself and give us also your experience. You're welcome to join us, and further info is available there on the API4INSPIRE homepage, which is located on GitHub, and there you find all the infos, also the links to the use cases where you can take a look at yourself at the data is available there as well, and also the contact points where you can contact if you want to look at the project closer. Yeah, many thanks for your attention, and maybe you have some questions.